Hello people, this is Aryan from Code Grind, and in today's video we'll be creating a JavaScript shooting game. We have already created a few games using JavaScript before, like the stone, paper and scissors game, the whack-a-mole game. Both of those projects were very interesting and we came across some new concepts of JavaScript, and creating games like these will definitely help you boost up your skills in JavaScript. So I suggest you go watch those two games as well, and I'll be creating a few games in future also. So if you want a particular kind of game, then do comment down below and I'll try to make a video on that game as well. Now if you want these kinds of videos, then do subscribe to the channel for more such games and new projects on JavaScript. Now let's have a look at this game. As you might have already visualized how the game looks like from the thumbnail, here we have this beautiful game. So we have different kinds of modules in this game. Like we have this background of a wall, we have this crosshair instead of a cursor. Whenever you shoot, this blood spot comes. Now let's begin with the game. So when I click on start game, this terrorist image starts appearing, and when we click on the image accurately, that means if we hit on the target, our score will be increased. So here is, I clicked on it, my score got to 1, again 2, okay, e4. I'm pretty good at this game, I created it. So you see, that's how this game works. So you have seen different kinds of modules what are in this game. You can obviously go on adding some modules after this, like when you click, you can add some animation to the crosshair, you can add a sound effect of a bullet shooting out from a gun. You can do all sorts of things. I will also help you out if you get stuck in something. So let's get straight into it. So as we have already discussed about the different modules of the game, we'll start off by the HTML part. So the only thing which we need is a div with a class of container. That's it. We'll wrap all our things inside it, and we just need three different things, which will be the start button, the crosshair image for the cursor, and the blood spot in the HTML part. Rest all will be taken care of by JavaScript. So first of all, as I told you, button type is equal to button. Type of a button should always be mentioned, because if you're working inside a form and if you don't mention the type of a button, then it will automatically treat it as a submit button, and there are some other use cases also. So always mention the type of the button when you are using it. Then this will be a start game. Yeah, so this will be a button. Then we'll have our image of the crosshair. So I have already downloaded these images. Here is the image for the crosshair, this one. Here is the blood spot image, and here is the image of the terrorist, and here is the image of the wall for the background. So I'll give a link in the description for all of these images. You can download them from there. So here we'll need the crosshair image. Let's give it an all. So crosshair, okay. Then we'll need an image for the blood spot. Yeah, so this will be our image for the blood spot. Now we also need some classes for them. So we'll give this one a class of cursor, and we'll give this one a class of blood spot. Yeah, so these will be it for our HTML part. Now let's jump to the CSS for providing our wall background for this one. So as you can see, we have got this button, the blood spot, and the crosshair must be somewhere around here. Yeah, so since it's white in color, it's not visible. Now we'll go to our CSS part and provide the prerequisites, which are selecting the asterisk selector and give it a margin of 0, padding of 0, box sizing of border box, and font family of Poppins. Poppins is a font which I use a lot. I like that font. If you want to use it in your projects as well, then I'll give a link in the description from where you can download it. Then by default, as you can see, we have got this cursor, the arrow cursor, which is the default cursor of any window, but we want that crosshair instead to be the cursor. So what we will do is we will select the cursor to be none, so that this arrow is not visible now, and then we'll provide our custom cursor. So I won't be getting into the details of how you can use a custom cursor. I've already made a video on it. I'll simply copy paste the code, and you can go watch that video out if you want to know how you can use a custom cursor, how you can use an image instead of a cursor. So let me just copy paste the code. I have got it all over here in my other window. So cursor, so as we gave that crosshair a class of cursor, here are the here's the CSS for it. And for the JavaScript part, yeah, so here I'll go to the script and paste that one. So this is the JavaScript part and this is the CSS part. You can see it. If you can understand this just by the code, then it's all good. But if you want a detailed explanation, then I suggest you to go watch that video. It is very helpful, as there will be many cases when you will have to create a custom cursor instead of the default one. Now let's go to our CSS and start with the main things for the game. So the first thing which we need is the background image of that wall. So what we'll do is select our body and give it a background image of that wall. So wall.jpg, that's it. Then background. Okay, let's first see how this is looking right now. So you see this is repeating, the wall is repeating itself. You can see there are 4 different quadrants and the wall is repeating itself. So to prevent that from happening, what we can do is background repeat, to set this background repeat to no repeat. And now it is not repeating, but it is not even covering the entire window. So for that, background size is equal to cover, and then at last background position to center. Yeah, that's it. Okay, so the center is not working, so let's just remove this so that it will cover up the entire window. So we have got this cursor, as you see, just by those few lines of CSS and for few lines of JavaScript, we have got this custom cursor over here. Now let's move on to the next part and let's design this button. So to design the button, we'll go over here. First of all, I'll remove the outline of none and give it a cursor of none as well. Outline none is very important, because if you have this outline none and when you click on the button, it gets that weird black colored outline and it just doesn't look good. So now we will go on designing it further. Color of white, border of 2 pixels, solid white. Then we'll give it some padding 1545. So you see, these are some shortcuts of how you can write CSS in very short lines. If I write P1545, it will give me padding of 45 pixels, but I want 15 pixels and 45 pixels like this. These are known as emit abbreviations, and if you want to learn about these, then you can go watch one of my videos on emit abbreviations, and believe me, they will help you a lot when you want to write fast CSS, HTML or any other language, and it is very helpful. Next, we'll increase the font size to 1.1 rem. I have already tested out these values when I was creating the game, so it's all tested values. You can always play around with the values, but I find these the most suitable for the project. And at last, obviously, background of transparent. Okay, so here's our button. It's looking perfect. Now let's design this blood spot. So what do we need to do with this blood spot is, whenever we click on a particular position at the window, we want the blood spot to go to that particular space. So if I click over here, the blood spot should come over here. So for that, the first thing which we need to do is style our container a bit. So let's go to the container and give that a position of relative. Giving a position of relative will make it very easy for us to play around with the blood spot and the terrorist image. How we'll see that later in this video. So now let's go to our blood spot designing. First the container, and we'll give it a height of 100%, and we'll also give it an overflow of hidden. Why did we give this an overflow of hidden? Let's see that first. Actually, if I remove this and let's say if I move the cursor over here, so as you can see, when I move my cursor to the right, extreme right, then we got this horizontal scroll bar in the bottom, but we don't want that. So for that, we'll provide it with the overflow of hidden. And now when I move it to the extreme right, we don't see that. Okay, so this is hiding over here. Why is this happening? Okay, we will just sort all of these things in a bit. Now what we need to do is go to our body. Okay, the reason for that is our body is just covering up the half of the window, but we want the body to have a full size, so we'll give it a height of 100 VH. And now you see the body is of full length and the cursor is visible everywhere. So these are small things which we need to take care of. They're not big problems, but every minute thing matters. Now since we have designed our container, let's go to designing our blood spot. So we'll select our blood spot, and first of all we'll give it a position of absolute. So since the container has a position of relative and this blood spot has a position of absolute, we can position it anywhere inside the container we want, and any kind of positioning, any position like wherever the cursor is clicked on is possible now. So now let's design it further. For that we'll give it a height of 50 pixels and z index of 2. Okay, so we have given it some sufficient styling. Now let's go on to JavaScript and design it further. So we'll select the blood spot by the document.query selector. Document.query selector. So this will select the blood spot. Now let's go to our JavaScript. And the thing which we want is whenever we click on the window, the blood spot should get that particular position and position itself according to the cursor click. So window.add event listener, click, and we will pass an event over here. Okay, now whenever it is clicked on, what we will do is we will select the blood spot and give it a top of e.page y. So what is e.page y? Let's see that first. I will console.log this event. Okay, now let's go to inspect element. You can press F12 or right click and go to inspect element from here as well. Now when I click, you see we have got this event console log, and here you can see we have different kinds of properties, but the one which we need is this page X and page Y. So what are these values? Now whenever I click on any position, so let's say if I clicked over here, then it will give me the position. So you see we have got this page X and page Y. So that means the position of the cursor and the clicking event was 558 pixels from the left. Offset X means position from the left, and offset Y means position from the top. So this is what we will need for positioning blood spot. Now we will give this a page Y of e.page y plus pixels, the top. So now whenever we click, you see it's getting the top one perfectly, but we need to give it an style left as well. So style left e.page X over here. Now when I click here, I click here, I click here, I click here, it goes along with the clicking of the cursor. But there is still one problem. When I click here, it is not exactly at the center of the crosshair. So to remove that error, what we will do is go to the blood spot and provide it with a transform translate of -50%, -50%. This will do the job for us. Now when I click here, it is exactly at the center of the cursor. So this is it for the blood spot. Now let's design other things as well. So we'll go to the body and let's give it a text align of center. Yeah, so the button is exactly at the center now. And now what we need to do is just take that terrorist head image and play around with that. So let's go to the JavaScript, and what we will do is we will create that terrorist image. As we have not already mentioned this image over here anywhere, so we will create that image using JavaScript. So how we do that is we'll create a variable const terrorist, and we will create that element. So document.create element, and the element which we want is an img, that means an img tag, and then we will give it a class. So to give it a class, we will give it terrorist dot set attribute. The attribute which we want is class, and the value is terrorist. Yeah, so it will set the class is equal to terrorist for this element. Then we will also set its source. As it is an image tag, we need to mention the source, and the source will be ./terrorist.png. So yeah, we have created this terrorist. It is still not implemented in this div. To implement it, we will have to append child, and we will look into how we do that. So now the next thing which we want is to make this image revolve around the whole container in regular interval. So the interval which I want is 1000 microseconds, that is 1 second. So we will be using the set interval function. What it does is it will call this function again and again after every second. So 1000 microseconds means 1 second. Now after every second this function will run again and again. So what we need is we need the height of the container for this. So we will select the container height and we'll go with container. Okay, let's select the container as well over here. Const container is equal to document dot query selector dot container. Okay, now for cont height we'll go to container dot offset height, and this will give us the height of that container, the container meaning this whole window in pixels, and then we'll need the width as well. So for that we'll go over here and take the offset dot width. So here we have the width and the height of the container, and now we need to generate some random numbers every second so that the terrorist image gets a random position every second. So for that, for generating a random number, what we will do is we need a random top and a random left. So for random top and random left, we have this code math.random into cont height minus 100. Now why did I do this 100? I will tell you about this later. And similarly we will also generate a random left. So what is this random top and random left is the position of the terrorist image from top and left. So this will be a random number based on the height and width of the container, and we will give this position to absolute. So the terrorist image which we have created over here, we will give that a position of absolute. You can also do this using CSS, but I am doing this using JavaScript. And we will give it a top of the rand top which we calculated, which is a random value, and add pixels to it. And similarly we will also go with rand left plus pixels. So this will be rand top and rand left. Randomly every second it will generate a random number, and it will position the terrorist image randomly every second according to the numbers which are generated. So this is it for the positioning of the terrorist. Now we'll go with calculating the score. So initially the score will be 0. Now right now still we don't see the terrorist image, and the reason for that is because we haven't yet appended it to the HTML. So we want that image to be appended to the HTML only when the start button is clicked on. So for that we will select the start button over here. So start button is equal to document dot query selector dot start button, and let's also give the button a class over here. So class is equal to start button. You can also select the start button using just the button HTML tag, but I like it to be higher specificity, so I give everything a class because it is more meaningful. Now over here what we'll do is start button dot add event listener click. Now whenever the start button is clicked on, this terrorist image will be appended to the container. So over here whenever the start button is clicked on, we will select the container and append child terrorist. So what this will do is whenever we click on the start button, it will select the container tag and it will add this terrorist image to that container tag at the end. Now let's see over here how this works. Okay, this is not working. There must be some problem with JavaScript. Let's see. Okay, here we have used the wrong thing. We need to have set attribute over here. I don't know how I did that mistake. This should be set attribute. Yeah, now you see it is working fine. Now when I click on start game, we got this terrorist image, and every second it's getting a random position. But now since the height of this image is so big, you see it's only revolving around the right side. So we will go to the CSS, select our dot terrorist and give it a height of 100 pixels, and we also need to do some more styling to it. Okay, now you see it has got this 100 pixels, so it's very short in height. And now we don't want it to be selectable. Like you see, when I move the cursor, these both images, the blood spot image, the cursor image, and the terrorist image get selected, but we don't want that to be happening. So we will go to our CSS and go to image selection background transparent. So whenever now these images will be selected, we won't see that blue background. Okay, now still there is some problem. It is getting a random position, but it is only getting it in the vertical axis. So there must be some issues over here. Let's see what is the issue. Okay, this should be left instead of position. Again, a very silly mistake. You see, solving bugs is a very easy thing. You just need to know your code. And by the end of this video, I ensure you that you will understand each and every code, why each and every line is written, and what is the meaning of that. If you still have some doubts, then you can always comment down below. You can join the Discord channel, and I'll personally enter the voice channel and discuss all the bugs that you encounter while facing it. You can also find the source code of this project in the description of the code pen, and you can play around with the code over there as well. So now when I click on start button, we get the random position of the terrorist, and it revolves around this whole window. Now why did I use this -100 over here? So the reason for that is, since the height of the image we have used of terrorist is 100. Now since if I use -100, if I don't use -100, then this terrorist image might exceed the length of the container and it will go beyond the window. So I have to limit the height of the container so that the terrorist image doesn't exceed the length and goes beyond the window. So that is why it is very important to have this -100. If you change the size of the image, you can also change the size of this value. Now what is left? We have to do the score calculation part. So for that, let's go further. Okay, for now what we need to do is, for the calculation of score, again when the window is clicked on, what we will check is if the target of the clicking event is that terrorist image. So if we click on that terrorist image, then our score should increase. So if e.target is equal to terrorist variable is that image which we created using JavaScript. Now if the target of our clicking is that image, then we will simply increment the score like this, and this is literally what we need to do for calculation of score and nothing else. If you want to add some negative marking, you can also go with else score minus minus, and that will do the job for you. But for this project we don't want that, so I'll just remove this. And yeah, this is it for the calculation of score, but we also need to display the score somewhere. The calculation is fine, but we need to display it, right? So for the display of score, what we will do is, whenever the start button is clicked on, we will change its inner text and we will give it score plus score like this. So now whenever we click on start button, it changes to score variable, and over here we will go, and whenever it's clicked on, we will change the score over here like this as well. So now when I click on start, the score is 0. I click anywhere, it is a wrong image, so it is the wrong target, so the score doesn't get incremented. But when I click on the image, the score gets incremented. So you see, this is how simple creating this game was. I'll be creating some more games in the future as well. And if you didn't get any part of this code, then I suggest you to go visit that part of the video again and watch it very carefully. And if you still have doubts, you can always comment down below your queries. You can join our Discord channel and text the queries over here. We can discuss the codes in the voice channels, and I'll definitely clear every one of your doubts. And you can also check the source code from CodePen. The link is in the description. You can download the images from the link in the description as well. And this was it for today's game. The next video is also going to be a very interesting game, so don't forget to subscribe to the channel and like the video if you found this an interesting one. And thank you for watching.